Be sure to catch Internet Mysteries weekdays on RatedEm.
This episode of Game Graveyard is going to hurt a little because today we're talking about a game that I was personally really hyped for. The Perfect Dark reboot was going to be a treat for fans, as the series hasn't seen a new entry in over 20 years. But after struggling to find its footing in development hell, it unfortunately was cancelled in 2025. In today's episode of Game Graveyard, we're taking a look at what led up to the eventual cancellation of the Perfect Dark reboot. Let's do a brief rundown on the series leading up to the reboot. Perfect Dark was released in the year 2000 on the Nintendo 64. Developed by Rareware, it was meant to be an original IP successor to their very own GoldenEye 007. The game follows secret agent Joanna Dark as she carries out missions of espionage between corporations and even space alien factions. The gameplay is similar to GoldenEye, with the game being a first-person shooter, as well as having the mission structure having multiple objectives to complete within a given area. In 2005, Perfect Dark Zero was released, a prequel to the original game that follows Joanna Dark earning her status as a legendary secret agent. Unfortunately, a rocky development cycle contrasting with high expectations from fans caused it to have a mixed reception. Both of these games can still be played in the modern era through Rare Replay if you have an Xbox One or one of the series consoles, and I recommend that you play them if you can. Since 2005, there hasn't been a new Perfect Dark game. After being acquired by Microsoft, Rare has had issues trying to get their old original IPs back in the spotlight, but Microsoft wanted to change this with Perfect Dark. At the Game Awards 2020, Xbox Game Studios revealed a reboot of the series simply titled Perfect Dark. The game was going to be developed by an in-house studio called The Initiative rather than Rare, which isn't abnormal for some of Xbox's IPs. Rare was knee-deep in post-launch support for Sea of Thieves, and in 2020 would release a new Battletoads game, so Xbox formed an entirely new studio to support the development of this Perfect Dark reboot. Xbox has also formed in-house studios for their other big titles, such as 343 Industries, now known as Halo Studios, for the Halo games, and The Coalition, a tongue-in-cheek named studio created to work on future Gears of War games after Epic's contract ended. The game was set to still be a first-person shooter, now running on Unreal Engine to give it more of a modern feel, and it took from immersive sim games like Deus Ex or Dishonored, allowing players to take whatever avenue they wanted when it came to accomplishing the game's objectives. Players would be able to go in guns blazing, sneak around an area to avoid conflict, or utilize gadgets in the surrounding environment to do a mix of both. Player agency, no pun intended, was at the forefront of the game's design. The game was going to seemingly ditch the space alien-driven plot of the first game to focus more on its cyberpunk-esque setting, providing a more grounded experience. Joanna Dark was still going to be the main character, but she would have been just another operative as opposed to the legendary agent that she was in the first game. Alex Wilton Reagan would have provided the voice for Joanna Dark, and the development team included people from teams such as BioWare, Respawn, and Rockstar. Christian Cantamessa, the writer for Red Dead Redemption, would be the lead writer on the story, and the studio itself was led by Daryl Gallagher, who had a hand in the development for the Tomb Raider reboot from 2013. Phil Spencer, the head of Xbox at the time, was passionate about the project, wanting Perfect Dark to stand shoulder to shoulder with Halo, Forza, and Gears. There was so much hype from the company that it was advertised as a quadruple A game. Whatever the fuck that means. Perfect Dark was ramping up to be a big deal. Hell, even I was super stoked for it. But as development started on the project, the initiative ran into a few complications.
Need a new form of entertainment in your life? Join the thousands of others who have hit the subscribe button. Side effects of subscribing may include joy, laughter, and newfound knowledge about video games. Talk to your doctor about if subscribing is right for you.
Have you ever thought to yourself, why did this game I love shut down?
So Epic Games acquired Mediatonic. Various balancing issues were still present, and this is going to be a recurring theme with X-Defiant's history: timing.
Luckily, there's a show that's just as curious as you are. Be sure to catch new episodes of So What Happened To, right here on RatedEm.
Shortly after the announcement at the 2020 Game Awards, issues came up surrounding the game's development and the team behind it. The team leads that I had mentioned earlier were being switched up often, with those big-name talents from other studios leaving the initiative to join other studios for other projects. It didn't seem to be anything regarding the game or the studio, but more of that these people just wanted to pursue other projects at other companies. However, it did force the initiative to look for new people to fill those empty spots. For example, the game design director Drew Murray left for Insomniac in 2021, and from my research, it didn't seem to be anything related to the Initiative or Perfect Dark. Murray just wanted to take an opportunity that Insomniac was offering. It got so bad that eventually the Initiative had to team up with Crystal Dynamics to share the load of the game's development. This would unfortunately cause more shakeups and roadblocks. The Initiative had a vision for the game, but Crystal Dynamics wanted to take it in a different direction, likely more akin to the modern Tomb Raider games. Various back and forths ensued regarding the game's direction. This caused many on the development team to get frustrated with management or feel that the game was just going nowhere. Many programmers and artists up and left and had to have their positions refilled if the Initiative could even keep up. The team was in a constant state of losing employees and rebuilding the team, and little progress was being made on the game itself, with the window of release creeping up. Another issue was the COVID-19 pandemic, which forced employees to work from home, straining communication amongst the team. On top of this, Xbox followed up with many layoffs that impacted many of its studios, including the Initiative. They were already having a hard time keeping people on the team, and Xbox just forced more of them to leave in order to cut costs amongst the difficult economic period. It got to a point where in July of 2025, the studio was nothing but sinking further and further, and Xbox made the decision to close down the studio entirely. Later that year, Microsoft made a last-ditch effort to sell the game off to another studio to finish it, but nobody was willing to pick up the slack, and in late 2025, the game was formally cancelled. Years of development time and millions of dollars wasted, Perfect Dark's reboot is now a stain on Xbox's catalog, and an unfortunate one at that. I feel like the Perfect Dark series would really benefit from a modern entry, not just from a technological standpoint, but with all the games that have come out since 2000 or even 2005, they could have included so much that really would have pushed the immersive sim feeling that they were looking for. But now, Xbox has officially shut the lights off for Perfect Dark.